Advocacy Director here at Bicycle Garage Indy, and welcome to our online Meet the Author event. We had hoped to do this in person, but as with many things over the past couple months, plans have changed, and so we've adapted this event to an online event. So I want to first let people know that about a little bit about Bicycle Garage Indy and BGI Fitness, and then I'll introduce Sue Reynolds, who's going to be our Meet the Author. She has written a book called The Athlete Inside, and she'll talk about that. But first, I'll tell you a little bit about Bicycle Garage Indy and BGI Fitness. We're a locally owned and operated small business in Indianapolis, central Indiana. We have 3 locations: our North Store, our downtown, and our Greenwood store, and we serve the needs of bicyclists and fitness enthusiasts for more than 35 years. We sell bicycles, bicycle accessories, fitness equipment, accessories, and we service bicycles in our stores, and we have a mobile service van that'll go to people's houses, and so you don't have to take your bike into the store. We also service fitness equipment in homes and fitness centers, and we install fitness equipment in fitness centers and businesses. Normally, we hold lots of different events. I teach kids and adults how to ride a bike for the first time, and we host and sponsor bicycle rides and other bicycle events. We're very involved with the Central Indiana bicycling community, supporting bicycle organizations and local bicycle advocacy efforts. For those of you who are looking to get out on your bike and explore places to ride near where you live, we have curated routes around Central Indiana on RideSpot. It's ridespot.org, and you might even find places you don't know about that are nearby. I encourage you to look at ridespot.org. It's really easy to navigate and join. We send out e-newsletters with community information and product information and sales. An exciting update that we have is our stores have been closed to customers. We've been fulfilling our customers' needs through online, phone, and email inquiries, and with service drop-off and pickup and curbside pickup of orders and shipping to homes. But today, our North Store open to customers with physical distancing guidelines and limitations. Some more details about that are on our website. So as Advocacy Director at Bicycle Garage Indy and BGI Fitness, I work on programs and projects to get more people on bikes and fitness journeys. So right now, that means helping people find places near home to bicycle and hosting online events like this one. We are thrilled to be able to host this event with Sue Reynolds. We feel her story can be an inspiration to everyone and are happy to have played a small role in keeping her bike ready for her efforts.
A big role.
So Sue Reynolds has transformed from a morbidly obese person at 335 pounds to 6th in the world and the first American at the World Triathlon Champions, competing on behalf of the United States. So along the way, she lost 200 pounds and discovered what it takes to transform from a lifelong fitness lackey to a high-performing triathlete. So we're thrilled to have this online experience with Sue, and we hope that you enjoy it.
Very good. Thank you so much. So
you're welcome.
We are, yay, we switched us up.
All right.
We've been playing with the technology. We're always hoping that it works. So I'm really pleased to be here. As Connie mentioned, I take my bike to the Bicycle Garage in Indy to have its, especially the electronics worked on. It's just I have a really good experience there. So I'm kind of watching on my phone as we go, and I see we have many people participating live. As we talk this evening, I'd like to encourage you to ask questions in the chat box, or not in your Facebook Live. Just ask questions in there. They will appear on the screen so Connie and I can see them. So if you have questions about about the shop or about my journey, we'd be happy to answer those questions. And as far as I'm concerned, nothing's off base. If whatever you want to ask me about my weight or triathlon experience, I'm more than happy to answer those questions. So what I thought I'd do is just show you some photos and going to kind of talk through my story, and then we'll go from there. And here's the book. It's The Athlete Inside. So it came out 2 weeks ago, and I've just been really thrilled. All of the proceeds from the book are going to USA Triathlon Foundation to help them support other people's dreams in triathlon. And then the book is endorsed by all kinds of fun people. Gwen Jorgensen, the 2016 Olympic gold medalist, Bob Babbitt, who is like a legend in triathlon, Rocky Harris, the CEO of USA Triathlon. Just really blessed to have lots of people support the book. And in terms of sales, it's doing really well. So that's fun. Okay, so I am going to share my screen if this all works right. First, I need to hide Connie. I'm hiding Connie. There she goes. And share my screen. And now let me see if we can get this PowerPoint to come up. So slideshow, current slide. So let's see if that works. Oh, I'm seeing it on my phone, so I think we're there. Good. You've got it. Oh, one other thing I can do. Let me go back real quickly. And just so we get the best view, I'm going to go like this. There we go. Now, when I share my screen, you will have, hopefully that will become a big picture. And then, yeah, okay, I think we're working. So, okay, we are. Yeah, so here's the book. And I mentioned 100% of the proceeds are going to USA Triathlon Foundation. So here is my journey in a nutshell. In 2012, I weighed 335 pounds. I was morbidly obese. And over a 4-year period, I not only lost 200 pounds, but I discovered an athlete hiding inside of me and a competitive spirit as well, and ended up finishing 6th in the world and 1st American at the World Triathlon Championship. I race in 2 distances. I race competitively in the sprint distance, and then I also race in the Ironman 70.3 distance. Okay, so it's a book about my journey, but it's also a book about the relationship between me and my very young coach. When I met Coach Brandt, I was 60 years old. He was 27. And the book, all throughout the book, is woven the story about the relationship between my coach and me as his athlete, and how he had to not only build my fitness, but also build my confidence, convince me that I should have high dreams. All of this was kind of crazy to me in the beginning. And even at times now, I'm still kind of thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. So one of the questions I always get is, what motivated you to lose weight? Really, I was not motivated by my appearance. I work in a job where I help kids, and I felt very fulfilled. My sense of image was based on my work and the amount of good things we were able to do in the community. So my appearance wasn't really important to me. And what I found was that in my work, I loved it so much that I often worked all night, and to stay awake, I would eat and eat. Maybe 3 dozen cookies and a big bag of M&Ms in one night. But then finally, I got so big that I started to not be able to do things that I wanted to do. So I couldn't get into a restaurant booth. I just couldn't fit in that spot. I couldn't even go to the restroom in a public restroom because I could get my body into the stall, but I couldn't close the door after me. And of course, walking was incredibly hard, and even standing and talking was difficult. But the thing that really motivated me was, and kind of became my focal point, was that I couldn't put on my own socks. You can see in that photo on the right that my belly was so big, I couldn't bend over to get to my feet. So every morning I'd have to ask my husband to put socks on my feet. If I dropped something on the floor, I couldn't pick it up. I'd have to pick it up with my toes because I couldn't reach the floor. Yeah, and I just got really, really tired of not being able to do things. And one morning I can remember I put my hands up in front of me at the breakfast table and something just clicked and I said, enough. And I remember I said it 2 times, enough. And that was it. I decided to start making different choices and started losing weight. So another question I get in terms of the fitness side is people want to know, were you an athlete? Were you like a star athlete in high school? Or no, I was not. I'm 66 now, and when I was in school, we didn't have sports for girls. The boys would all go to the gym to play basketball, but they didn't think girls could play basketball. So we were taken to the home ec room to square dance. So I just never had opportunities to play sports. And I never knew that I even like sports. I suspect that there's a lot of older women my age that are athletes, and they just don't know it because they never had the opportunities. So my first exercise at 335 pounds that was my house. I lived in Columbus at the time. We walked down the driveway and we made it to the neighbor's driveway, which was about 50 yards away. And that was as far as I could go. I was done. I was walking with my husband. I had my arm in his arm. I think he was carrying half my weight. It was everything I could do to get back home, and walked in the back door, collapsed on the couch. But I felt so good. For the first time in decades, I had exercised. And I remember laying there, sprawled out on the couch, thinking, oh my gosh, I exercised. I was so excited. So the next day, we walked to the second neighbor's driveway, and the day after that, to the third neighbor's driveway. Finally, I could walk around the block, then 1 mile, 2 miles, then 3 miles. And every time I finished a walk, I would text my children. And my younger son, especially, that both of them, they would write back and say, woohoo, Mom, you made it to the fourth driveway. But when I did the 3 miles, my son texted me and he said, that's great, Mom, let's do a 5K. And I thought he was nuts. I just, 5Ks were for fit people. I was an obese person. I could walk. I could not run. But he said, let's do it, Mom. And you don't have to be fast. He said, there'll be people with strollers. You can go behind them. You'll be fine. So I did that. And the event that he entered us in was appropriately called the Krispy Kreme Challenge. So now I'm thinking I'm the obese person at this event, and everybody's going to think I'm there just to eat the donuts. The twist was at the halfway point when you had walked 1.5 miles, they gave you a dozen donuts, and they invited you to eat those donuts before you finish the route. But I did not eat the donuts. So yeah, one of the things that I learned at that race that has really helped me throughout my journey is the mantra "Go away, pride." I was really embarrassed to be at that race, to be so overweight, and I knew that probably people were looking at me or maybe pointing at me and wondering, how the obese person was going to finish this 5K. But I thought, if I really want this, I've got to tell my pride to go away. So it was, go away, pride. Um, and then the other thing that happened at the race, and this, I get so touched and so often cry when I think about this. When I got to the halfway point, there was an aid station there with little glasses of water. I had no idea those glasses of water were going to be there. And I didn't know what to do. I thought that the glasses of water were for the runners, for the real athletes, and I was just a walker. So I didn't think I deserved one of those glasses of waters because I was just a walker. So I didn't go up to the table. I walked by, and this lovely volunteer came running after me with a glass of water in her hand, and she said, here's a water for you. And all of a sudden, I felt like I was in the Boston Marathon. I thought, hi, this is so cool. I'm an athlete, and they thought I needed water, and they brought me water. And that moment changed my life. And I just think that there are so many times when there's just a little random act of kindness that makes a huge difference. And that woman will never know the impact that she had on my life. I wish I knew who she was. I'd contact her and say thank you. But that little act of kindness was huge. It's another thing throughout my journey is I've discovered how important kindness is, and that kindness has the power to change lives. So after I started walking, I took a water aerobics class, I took a spin class, and I started thinking, gosh, I wonder if I could do a triathlon. And I never really thought that I would do one. I mean, I'm obese. I'm, like 290 pounds at this time. I'd lost a little bit of weight. And I never thought that I'd do one, but it made my exercise fun to think about it. So when I was walking, I'd be thinking, okay, I'm training and eventually I'm going to do, I'm going to do a triathlon. Or if I was on my spin bike, I'm training for a triathlon. It just made me feel, like I was a tough woman. So, but I never thought I'd do one. But I kept, being able to go farther and farther. And eventually I could walk. And then slowly I worked into running. I could run the 5K. I could swim, 16 laps of the pool. Not well. I did breaststroke and a little bit of dog paddle, but I could do it. And then on the bike, I got to the point where I could bike. And so without telling anyone, I signed up for my first triathlon. I thought that I didn't want to tell anybody because I was pretty sure I was going to back out. But I went, and it was a wonderful experience. So I got there, and for those of you who've done triathlons, you know what I'm talking about. Man, that first triathlon is just so scary. I had not a clue what I was doing. I'd never been to a triathlon. I didn't know any triathletes. So one of the things, another little saying that I had to learn was go away fear. I can remember thinking, if I'm going to do this, I just have to push my fear to the side, and I'm just going to do it and go away fear. And that became another one of my mantras throughout this entire journey. There were so many things that were scary, and I just had to say, go away fear, and just make myself do them. So yeah, so this is my first triathlon, and I also have discovered a trick that I actually use in other parts of my life, that when I don't know what to do, I find the person in the room that looks like they're the smartest, and I go up to them and just say, I'm clueless. So I went up to a very nice gentleman who had a bike that looked really expensive. He had disc wheels and it just looked fancy. So I asked him, what do I do? And he took me by the hand and kind of explained. This is my first transition area. I'll talk about it in a minute, but notice the cooler, notice the duffel bag. It was full of clothes. Here's all the clothes I'm going to put on after I get out of the swim. So at the swim start, there I am. And again, this was a time where I had to say, go away pride. I mean, to be in a bathing suit in my obese body, standing in front of everybody. This was at Eagle Creek. Some of you probably have raced there, but you know that right at the water, they usually have a professional photographer. And so I had worn a robe right up to the start so nobody would see me. I took off my robe and I turned, and here's this photographer taking pictures of my jiggly parts as I jiggled into the water. First transition, clueless. You can see I'm sitting down. I put on clothes already. In my cooler, I got out a sandwich and ate a sandwich. And then out of my duffel bag, I got a hairbrush and I brushed my hair, put on my shoes. I think I spent 15 minutes in transition the first time. I now spend 23 seconds in transition, but that was that I wasn't worried about going fast. I just wanted to get finished, and I just took my time. So bike went well. I'm going out on the run. And again, for those of you who have raced at Eagle Creek with Tuxedo Brothers, you recognize this run start. And I thought it was so cool because as I was starting the run, other people were finishing, and all the spectators were cheering for them. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if I just make it through the run, I'm going to come down that hill and everybody's going to be cheering for me, and it's just going to be fabulous. So I make it through the run. I'm a half mile from the finish line, and everything starts hurting. I mean, you know how that goes. You get to the point where your brain is saying you need to stop, and you just have to tell your brain, I'm sorry, you're going to keep going. But I came up to that corner. Again, for those of you who've done the race, I came up to that corner before we hit the downhill to the finish. And I'm thinking, as soon as I turn that corner, I'm going to see all those spectators and they're going to see me and they're going to start clapping. But when you're the very last person to finish in a race and you're 20 minutes behind the second to last person, there's what the finish line looks like. Everybody had gone home. The timer was still there. But they had even cleaned up the bike racks in transition, except for the one rack that held my bike. But I wanted to point out, and at some point, I think this gentleman in the foreground in the gray, I think he works for Tuxedo Brothers. His T-shirt says Tuxedo Brothers on the back. He clapped for me all the way down the hill. And again, I felt like I was finishing the Olympics. I mean, here was somebody clapping for me as I was doing something that involved exercise. I couldn't believe it. And he just made that moment so special for me. So I finished, crossed the finish line, and in all the photos, I'm holding up my finger with number 1. I think I came in second to last, but in my mind, I was number 1. I had finished. I was a triathlete. So yeah, so just that excitement was just, it just got me going. I fell in love with triathlon at that race. So at a lot of races after that, I did several more. As soon as I got home, I signed up for another one. And I started finishing first in my age group a lot. And that sounds pretty good, except that I was the only one in my age group. When you get into the upper age groups, there's not a lot of people that you're racing with. So I was often in races finishing dead last. But because I was the only one in my age group, I got to stand up on the podium and get a medal. So yeah, that was interesting. The other thing that did is because I finished first in a field of 1, that qualified me for nationals. And I had to think about whether or not I wanted to go. But what got me wanting to go was I knew there would be a lot of women there in my age group, and I could see how I compared to other women. And I was just real curious. I just, wondered, where do I stand with other women my age? Am I going to be last overall with older women as well? Or where would I finish? So I decided to go to nationals, and I will tell that story in a minute. Connie, let me bring you back here. We're going to do a giveaway for an autographed copy of the book. And let me see if I can get Connie back here. Whoops. There you are, Connie. We are not hearing you. I think you need to unmute. There you go.
Okay. I'm gonna ask a question, and those who are red, I'm getting a
I'll go ahead and mute me. That will help.
Okay. Does that work? I'm still getting it. I'm not really. I'll go ahead. Okay. The question is, when was triathlon introduced in the Olympics? And so what we need to do is, and those who are registered, hopefully we will be able to your contact information, and we'll be able to send you.
Connie, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you were breaking up a little bit. So I think the question was, when did triathlon become a sport in the Olympics? The year, right? Okay.
Correct.
So those of you who are listening, take a guess, put it in your comments, and whoever guesses the closest wins the book, signed, autographed. And I'm happy to sign it to whoever you would like. I see a couple people have put their answers in. Okay. Connie, I'm seeing the first winner. Are you?
Yes.
So do you want to announce it or do you want me to?
You can go ahead.
Okay, it looks like the correct answer was the year 2000 and Jim Staggers. So Jim will get a hold of you to get your contact information, and I will ask you how you would like me to autograph the book, and then we'll do that, and I'll send it to you. So good. And we're going to do one more book right at the end, so you'll have another chance. So okay, very good. Now I'll get back into the national story. Let me see. I'm going to. Very good, and that looks good. Now I need to make me tiny. There we go. And now we'll go back to the story. Okay, so that was cool. Congratulations, Jim. Okay, so I'm now at the first national championship. Now remember how I got there. I got there because I was first in a field of one. I'm still obese. I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm there with 4,000 of the best triathletes from across the country. And there is my swim start. It's the first time I'd done a mass start. And my coach, for some reason, I had a coach by then, was working with Coach Brant Baylor. He told me to line up right in the front. I think this is me right here, front and center. I always did what my coach told me to do, and he said front center, so that's where I went. So gun goes off, and we take off, and I'm swimming, and we all were converging on a point that was about 250 meters from the start, and that brought everybody together to the same point, and it got really, really crowded. Somebody punched me in the face, knocked off my goggles, and gave me a black eye. It was very unlike Eagle Creek, where I started at the very back and nobody was around me at all. So, and it was so crowded. I mean, I was like side to side with women. My ribs were hitting other women's ribs. And I'm swimming along, and my arm comes down on the middle of another woman's back. And I think, now what should I do? On the street, I would just step back and say, you go right ahead. I'm so sorry. After you. But I'm thinking, I want to get to that point before everybody else does. So I just kept my arm going. And in the process, I shoved her underwater, and I wasn't trying to. She just, as my arm went, she went, and I swam over the top of her, and I beat her to the point that we were swimming toward, and I loved that feeling. I discovered that there's this competitive beast in me, and there's just like this primal instinct that I loved racing, and I love the physical competition, and but at the same time, I was really freaked out because I just shoved a woman underwater, and I liked it. So I was really quite upset. And when I was thinking about not even doing triathlon anymore because I didn't want to shove people underwater and like it. But I talked to my coach, and he just laughed. He said, this is what we want, Sue. He said, this is the competitive spirit. He said, everybody knows that on the street, you're not going to shove people down, and everybody knows you didn't do it on purpose. He said, but in the competition, that happens sometimes. And he said, that's a good thing. We want you to have that competitive spirit. We want that primal, drive to be first, or, to be at the front. So I learned to embrace that competitive spirit. And nobody was more shocked than me to find it in there. There's two other things that happened at the race. One was that I finished middle of the pack. And I started thinking, oh my gosh, if I can be middle of the pack with, very little training, and, training revolved around my life. I skipped workouts if life got in the way. I started thinking, what can I do if I really, really committed to my training? And then the other thing I found out is that at this race, the top 18 became members of Team USA. And from 19 to 25 became alternates for Team USA. And I started to wonder if I could be an alternate. I came in 29th, so that would be going from 29 to 25. I thought, man, if I work really hard, maybe I gave myself 3 years. Maybe in 3 years, I could be an alternate. I never even thought about making the team. I just wanted to be an alternate. I thought that'd be so cool. So I came home and I asked my coach if he would be willing to train me like an elite. I told him, I know I'm a beginner, I'm still obese, but there's no reason why I can't train like Gwen Jorgensen, the Olympic champion. Why can't I train like her? I can have her work ethic. I'm never going to have her physical ability, but I can certainly have her work ethic. And I'd like to do that if you would agree to train me that way. So, to his credit, I thought he would laugh, but to his credit, he said, okay. And he started training me like an elite. We were all in. My mantra for the year became no excuses, whatever it takes, find a way. The other mantra was no stone unturned. If I could think of something to be faster, my rule was that I had to do it. So, of course, we worked on bike, swim, run, but we added in strength training. We added in nutrition, really focused on my nutrition, recovery, sleeping. My coach started monitoring my sleeping. I felt like he was monitoring everything about me. And then also my mental attitude, that, to race in a sprint race where it's all out for the entire race, when you're competing, the mental attitude is really, really important. So I finally shared my new daydream with Coach Brandt, Team USA alternate in a 3-year period. And his response was, forget being an alternate. He said, forget 3 years. And then he said, let's do it this year and let's just outright make the team. And I was freaked. I thought, oh my gosh, make the team and do it like next season. We've got 1 year to do this in. But he said, yeah. And I have a great relationship with my coach. I didn't want to let him down. And so I said, okay. And we both just went all in. We worked so hard. The mental part, there was a lot of challenge about believing in myself that I had, I mean, a year ago I couldn't tie my shoes, and now I'm talking about making the USA triathlon team. So we had to do a lot of work on my confidence, believing in me. Go away pride, go away fear. I was so afraid trying as I worked to make that team. No excuses, whatever it takes. And then during races, I had to believe in myself. And my coach gave me, said things to me that I later used as mantras. He would say before a race, you are prepared. You are a competitor. I use that one a lot at the start line. You are a competitor. Show what you are made of. I use that in the run. I do that as a cadence when I'm running and I'm wanting it to stop hurting. I'll just say, okay, Sue, you got to show what you are made of. And then just having grit. The mental part of this was huge. And it was really, as much as my physical growth, that was a big part of my mental growth. But we did it. We qualified for the team. I can't tell you how flabbergasted I was. It was just a huge accomplishment. And as I look back, I still am dumbfounded. I mean, I'm sitting here shaking my head. I still have a hard time believing it. So went to Worlds, and it was just a fabulous experience. Being there with people from all over the world who shared a common dream as I had, and everybody's happy, and everybody has high hopes and dreams, and it's just an incredible environment. And then wearing my country's uniform, that's the same uniform that the Olympians wear. It's the race is put on by the same group that puts on the triathlon race in the Olympics. So it's considered the age group Olympics, and it was just an incredible experience. So the swim, first time in a ocean swim, got stung by a jellyfish. Had a huge rogue ocean current come up that pushed some women backwards. Had to deal with that. It pushed me under the start dock, and I kicked the scaffolding and cut my foot. There were men had to jump in the water and pull out some of the women because they were trapped underneath the dock. It was just a crazy swim. The bike was great. For those of you who bike, and I'm assuming since this is Bicycle Garage, a lot of you are cyclists. In triathlon in the United States, you're not allowed to draft. In triathlon internationally, it is draft legal. So I had to learn how to draft and how to come out of the swim ready to draft. And I was pleased to get into a group of 5 bikes, and I kind of took lead. I had kind of trained to do that and kind of told all the women we were going to take 30-second pulls, and it worked really, really well. We did one breakaway. We lost one of the cyclists. That was fun. But I had the fastest bike split in the world in my age group at the race. So bike has become my strength. I absolutely love biking. So, and then the run was fine. It was hot as the dickens. I didn't think I was going to make it, but made it across the finish line and finished 11th. It was pretty cool. My first world championship, and to come in 11th in the world I was just flabbergasted. So yeah, and then the next year went back to my second worlds at the Netherlands. That's the one where I finished 6th and first American, and I mean, it was just surreal, the whole thing. The finish chute here is the same finish chute that the Olympians were using in their race. There was a drone that flew down the finish chute with me, and it was filming me from the side. All of my friends at home could see it. It was like, see me, it was crazy. And then I've been back to Worlds 2 more times, qualified again in 2020, but they canceled the race in Edmonton. And then just last year, I did my first Ironman 70.3 race and qualified for that world championship too. So that was kind of fun. So yeah, so let's do another giveaway. Actually, let's take questions first, and then we'll do a giveaway. So I'm going to come back out of here, and let's bring Connie back, and we'll hide the screen. Okay, there we go.
All right.
Okay, cool.
Great.
So questions, and I know we had some people typed in questions too. Do you want to just shoot those questions at me, Connie, and then we'll take any others that come up?
So we had some
like
that came in on the
people.
registration form. So I will read those first. Let's see. Do you have any injuries that occurred along the way? If so, how did you mentally and emotionally overcome them? I had a heart attack, and I am heart attack and cancer survivor in the past 24 months.
Yeah, I didn't have any injuries. And I think that is because of the way my coach trained me. My coaches really prides himself in not having his athletes get injured. So he really pays attention and observes us to make sure, where our max is. And I learned not to go over his max. So yeah, I mean, and even in the beginning, when I was 335 pounds, when I first started running, my first run was 10 feet. I actually don't even know if I was running, but my arms were moving fast, so I called it running. But yeah, I just went really, really slow. And for people that are just starting, and for people that are trying to push the pointy end, I think, pushing too hard and not recovering is just an invitation for injury. I did have 2 issues. I had one with my SI joint where it just was dysfunctional. It wasn't working quite the way it was supposed to. And the race where I finished 6th in the world, that run was really painful. But I knew I wasn't going to injure myself more. So, I have a thing where I tell myself that pain doesn't really exist. You can't hold it, you can't touch it. And I just kind of put it out of my mind and keep going. And so yeah, there was that. And then you mentioned a heart issue. My second year, in the middle of right after one of my training runs, I had an atrial flutter, and we had to kind of figure that out. And finally, my cardiologist figured it was just a fluke, and he permitted me to go back. But I think coming back from injury, it has to be so frustrating. I have always wondered how I would handle it. And I think it's just like handling training. You have to be patient and have your eye on where you want to go, and just know it's going to be small steps. I think patience is the key to a lot of getting to where you want to go. So yeah.
Okay, let's see what the second question. We've gotten some as well on Facebook, but we'll cover the ones we got first.
Okay.
I can swim well, bike fast, but am a slow runner. How can I improve this? I move up an age class this year and I'm hoping to crush it. I do sprint triathlons and will be turning 60 this year, and I put my heart into this.
Oh, yay. So a kindred spirit, I can tell. Yeah, so that's my story too. I'm decent. I'm usually come out of the water, close to the front in my age group, usually, not always. I'm pretty good in the bike, but oh my gosh, my run. So I just have to hope that that I'm far enough in front of everybody so that, because I know they're catching me on the run, and I just hope that the finish line comes before they catch me. So yeah, that's hard. Mentally, I do a lot better when I can see someone in front of me and I'm trying to catch them. I had to adjust mentally to learn how to run from the front when I know that people are trying to catch me, and that's a whole different ball game, at least for me. In terms of getting better, I think there's two things you can do. One is just to have a really good training plan. I can't emphasize enough how important I think it is to work with a good coach who can work you forward at a good pace. One of the things that my coach had to do with me in the beginning, when I was really unfit, he had to tell me, you can't improve yet in the run. You have to develop your fitness first, and then we'll start working on your run. So I had to be patient and really work on that fitness. And then the other point is just working on technique. And again, a good coach, if you have a local coach that can meet with you one-on-one or send video to a coach who's somewhere else in the country. But yeah, and that's every day. I did a run this afternoon, and the whole way on the run, I'm thinking about, where are my hands? What are my shoulders doing? Is my hip opening? So really looking at the technique part as well as just the fitness. So yeah, and being patient. That's a slow one. I've been working on run for 7 years, and so I'm a little bit faster and I get a little bit better every year, but it's slow. Yeah. That's the nice thing about triathlon, though. You don't have to be good in all of them. You can be good in even one and just mediocre in the others, and you'll still do okay.
All right. Let's see. The third question: what was the turning point when you started to see yourself as an athlete?
Yeah, part was in the race that I talked about where I shoved the woman underwater. And then the other part was my coach. I really didn't think of myself as an athlete, and it just seemed preposterous because all my life I had been obese, or most of my life, and I just thought it was just ridiculous to think of myself as an athlete. I would call myself an athlete wannabe or a pseudo athlete. And my coach, he sat me down and he said, Sue, he said, we need to talk about how you think about yourself. And he said, you're good. He said, you really have some skill here. And he said, I want you to develop swag. And I'm thinking he wants me to, walk around, strut around. And what he meant was that when you understand that in believing yourself, you carry yourself with confidence. And he wanted me to develop that. And that was hard. I can remember looking in the mirror and saying to myself over and over again, you are an athlete, you are an athlete. It just sounded so bizarre. But finally, I kind of came to believe it. So I am an athlete.
Great. Let's see. Okay, number 4. How do you get past the pain when everything hurts when starting out?
Yeah, and I totally understand. I mean, that first walk to the neighbor's mailbox was so hard. And to this day, the first 5K that I walked was my hardest race. I know, when you think about it, if you're carrying 200 pounds, that's the equivalent to, what is it, to 10, 20 pound bags of ice I'm carrying on my body. That was hard. So I think there's two things. One is just mentally being patient with yourself. What I used to do with that is I would, all the fast runners who are like way out in front, I would imagine them with, I pictured gallons of milk hanging from them. And I think what's 200 divided by 8, that's how many gallons of milk that I was carrying. And I imagine those fast runners, what they would be like if they were carrying an extra 200 pounds. And I visualized them with these milk jugs hanging from them. And I thought, they'd probably be back here with me. So, and I might even beat them if they had the 200 pounds. So yeah, just being patient. And then in terms of pain, these are such great questions. In the very beginning, I thought that every pain was the end of my life. And every little niggle, I would go to the doctor. And I finally started going to a sports doctor. That was really helpful. And he taught me that there's pain that you just work through. And then there's pain, if the pain is, sharp or it's getting worse, then there's reason to stop. So I had to learn, like, when you work through pain and just keep going and when you don't. And then for me, I just put this wall up and I tell myself, that's just pain. Your body is trying to warn you that, you're that you're in trouble, but you're really not. Your body is just being, cautious. Keep going. And I just tell myself that it's okay to feel that pain, and I block it off from my head and just keep going. I focus on my cadence a lot, because if I can keep my cadence going, then I'm not going to slow down. So yeah, that's a really, really good question, and hard. I mean, kudos to you for thinking about it and trying to figure out what to do.
All right, let's see. What's the next question? What are the best recommendations on getting started? Nutrition needs and workouts for a former athlete who wants to get back in shape and try a triathlon.
So I think I'm going to make sure the question, Connie, was about the nutritional needs.
Yeah, nutrition and workouts. Nutrition needs and workouts. Best recommendations.
Yeah, so on the workout, I've kind of talked about that already. I would just start out slow and don't overdo it in the beginning. And I think especially for people who have been athletes before, that's hard because you kind of remember what it was like to go fast and how good that feels when you're all out. And but I go with a training plan and just work it slow, have patience. That just don't try to do it all at once, and give yourself lots of time. In terms of the nutrition, there's lots of different nutrition plans that I think work for different people. The one that I used and still use is a whole foods nutrition plan. I don't leave out any food groups. So I'm eating fats, proteins, and carbs. I eat the same fats and proteins every day. And then on my carbs, on big training days, I'll add carbs in. And on easier days, then I cut back on the carbs. But I'm trying to eat just enough calories to cover my workout. I eat 5 times a day. No, is that right? I eat 6 times a day. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner, pre-workout, post-workout, and then a snack before I go to bed. And then, just study this stuff. Like the snack before I go to bed is cottage cheese because it has casein protein in it. That's a slow digesting protein, so it fuels your muscles all night as your body is building muscles and recovery. I do carbs before my workout and then protein after my workout, so that when my body is trying to rebuild the muscles that I've just torn down in the workout, they have that protein to feed from. So there's a lot written. A really good book that I recommend. I recommend all of Matt Fitzgerald's books. He writes a lot for endurance athletes, and he has one called Racing Weight that talks about ideal race weight and then how to get there. But all of his books are good. There's another one called Diet Cult that talks about different diet plans, and his books are really good.
Let me see. All right. So the last question of what we got from registered people was, I'm 62 years old. How did your body adjust to the new activity? Was it painful? Any advice on ways to cope with arthritic joints, etc.?
Yeah. So again, 62 and getting into this exercise kudos to you. That's wonderful. That just makes my day. So in terms of getting into it, same thing, just going slow. And in terms of arthritis, again, for me, because I started so late in life, I don't know if you're just starting, but because I didn't exercise for my first 60 years, I still had all my cartilage in my knees and everywhere. So I hadn't worn down my body yet. So I've been very blessed in that I don't have the issues that people who have been running hard for 50 years have at this point in life. The other thing is that there are endurance sports where you don't have to run. So there's a new sport. They just had the first national championship in it 2 years ago, called aqua bike, and it's triathlon minus the run. So you just swim and then you get out of the water and you bike. So for people who have had a knee replaced or a hip replaced, that just running is not going to work for them, aqua bike is great. So I compete in aqua bike too, since those are my two best sports. I do pretty well on aqua bike. So yeah, I actually got All-American in aqua bike last year. So yeah, but aqua bike is a lot of fun. So if you don't want that pounding from the running, aqua bike would be great.
Let's see. Well, this one you already kind of covered, how you keep going when you're in pain. What has most surprised you about this journey you've been on?
Oh my gosh. There are so many surprises. There are things that just shocked me, like finding out that I like to compete. That I was okay with shoving a woman underwater. That was crazy. One of the pleasant surprises was the kindness that people have shown. I think that's prevalent throughout the endurance community, because for the most part, everybody's trying to finish. They're not trying to beat people, and so everybody's cheering for everybody. It's the race morning. I always think it's the happiest place on earth, because everybody's come with high hopes and dreams, and everybody wants everybody else to reach their dreams. And so just the kindness, and all along for me, there have been just whenever I needed it, someone stepped forward and gave me kindness. And that was a huge surprise. That I could even do this was a huge surprise. And then for me too, there was a spiritual side of this, where I feel like God was using triathlon to reach out for me and to me, and that was just another personal part that I wasn't expecting at all, that really made a difference in my life.
Let's see. Do you have any suggestions on swim training if we have no pools or large lakes that are open?
So I feel you. Absolutely. So my swim training for several weeks consisted of swim bands. So any kind of stretch band you can use, and you just put it around something. I put mine around a tree that's not going to move. I put it around one of the supports of my deck to begin with, and then I started noticing I was pulling the deck over. so I had to switch. So it's around a tree, but you just put my arms out here. You just put your hands on both sides, and then you just do pulls over and over again. So I think my coach had me doing 5 sets of 20 with rest in between, just to keep my upper body going. But then I started swimming in a lake. So I started swimming in Lake Monroe when the water was 52 degrees. So beginning of March, maybe middle of March, and wear a wetsuit. And then I discovered that they make gloves and booties out of wetsuit material, and 2 bathing caps. And I'm quite comfortable in freezing water. So I just have to kind of bundle up a little bit. But so I've been swimming in Lake Monroe in the water for weeks. But yeah, it's just, people think I'm nuts, but once you get once you're all bundled up, it's just like being outside in your winter coat. It's not cold.
Let's see. What's your best advice for someone who wants to get started and wonders where to start with losing weight, nutrition, and doing a triathlon? Covered some of that, but
yeah, I think the best advice, I think, in starting any journey is that you don't have to know all the steps when you start. Just take that first step. And once you've done that, then you'll figure out what the second step is. So for me, my first step was to walk to the neighbor's driveway. I didn't know if I could make it. And then the next driveway and the next driveway. And then in nutrition, for me, I started out with the nutrition. I started out with a diet that I lost 66 pounds on, but it was not a sustainable diet for me. And then I gained it all back. Actually, there's a chapter in the book about that, because I wanted to show people that if you start something and you fail, you just got to figure out another plan, plan B or plan X or W, or, however far you get until you do it. But yeah, I think my biggest advice is just tell yourself, I'm going to start, and then pick a day. I'm going to start tomorrow. I'm going to start Sunday. And whatever you say, then you do it. You're going to start Sunday. It doesn't have to be a big step. It might be just walking from your house to the street and back. But take that first step, and then the next day figure out what the second step is. And then the other part I think is really important in the beginning is to have some kind of accountability. I lucked into that. For me, my accountability was texting my sons and telling them, I did it. I went to the 4th driveway. And they texted me back. In my head, I didn't realize that was accountability at the time, but it was. So I'd, find a friend and say, I'm just telling you that I'm going to walk to the driveway on Sunday. And then the friend doesn't have to do anything. On Sunday, you just text that friend again and say, I did it. That's all you have to do. But then you've set up that accountability system. So I think that's important. So yeah, and just have fun.
Great. One last question that I see is, can you talk about your faith in this journey?
Yeah. So for me, when I had lost about 90 pounds, everything just started feeling surreal. I mean, who loses 90 pounds? I couldn't believe that this was happening. And I started just getting a sense that God had something to do with this. I attend church and have attended church all my life, every day or every weekend. But I had gotten out of having a relationship with God. I was just kind of going through the motions. So then I wondered if, what was happening. I just had a sense that I wasn't in control of my weight loss. It was happening to me instead of because of what I was doing. And then all these people were so nice. I was just showered with kindness. I mean, it kind of freaked me out, because I just couldn't figure out why these people were being nice. And I mean, like I was bombarded with kindness. And just started, thinking, could these be angels? And finally, I figured out that they were just the face of God. And so it made me realize that God was all around me, and that I could, be the face of God for others too. And then there's another part that I'm not going to tell because it'll spoil the book. But my coach is also Christian, and there was a part out of the blue. I didn't know he was Christian, where he made one statement, and then I got to observe his faith. And yeah, so the book it's not a preachy book. There's one chapter about my discovering and reconnecting with God. And then there's a part of another chapter that talks about me observing my coach while his family was going through a catastrophe, and how much I learned about the strength of faith. So it's not preachy. I'm just telling my story. And, if that's not your cup of tea, just skip those chapters. But, if you're curious to see somebody else's journey, read. So, okay.
Great. I think that is all the questions that I've seen. So I think we're done with that. And it's actually now exactly 7:30. So
we'll do one more giveaway. And
okay.
Before we do that, if anybody wants to connect with me, my website is Sue Reynolds. So Sue, REYNOLDS, SueReynolds.net. And if you go there, there's places where you can connect. We can connect on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. And then there's also a tips section for getting started with exercise or getting started with losing weight. So there might be some information in there that you might find helpful. So yeah, and if anybody has a book club or any other group that you're looking for a virtual speaker for, I really enjoy talking about the book and chatting with people. And just contact me and I'd be happy to chat with you about that. Okay, one more giveaway.
Okay, let me find the question again. All right, so if you were here at the beginning, you might have actually heard the answer to this, but who won the triathlon in the Olympics in 2016?
My hero. I love this woman. She was my role model.
So we don't have any answers yet, so we'll have to see if anybody's gonna try that.
While we're waiting for answers, I'm seeing lots of some folks that I know. Spiegel Bikes is watching. That's cool. Greg Paddock from Zwift Herd.
All right, so we do have a Jurgensen.
All right.
So Patty Soskull Hemmerly is the winner of the second book. Awesome. Congratulations.
Very good. So if the two people that won, I'll get in touch with you. And if I can't find you for some reason, SueReynolds.net, just there's a contact form there. Just send me your contact information and we'll connect. Wonderful. So very good. Okay.
Okay, well, I guess that is the end. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and thank you so much, Sue, for making this happen and for your book and your inspiration. I'm really thrilled that we were able to do this.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, and thanks for being such a great bike shop, and thanks for putting my bike together so many times.
Oh, you're welcome.
Great bike mechanics. Okay,
Great.
very good. So hit the close button. Thank you, everybody. And here we go. Bye.